Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Embodied Living. And in the next weeks, I will be moving into sexuality, the themes that hold us back from expressing ourselves fully in this realm, and how we can start to change our narrative around sexuality and how to start embodying our sexuality, right? Sounds fun, and it will be. But before we do that, I want to step back and dive into something that is shifting, not only in our lives, but in the collective. Have you felt it? Have you felt the change? Have you felt the shift? Well, this episode is about moving from hustle to embodiment and why feminine energy matters now more than ever. And to understand the shift, we're going to zoom out a bit and let's look at a bigger picture of where we've come from over these centuries. We're going to look at the patterns that got us here because history has shaped the way we relate to our bodies, our sexuality, our energy. We have been in a masculine energy for centuries now. Men hold the positions in the church, in government, any place power is present, women were not. And it's only been really within maybe the last 50 years that you can see that we have built on our own personal and political power and social power in this world. And when we look back at this, we were simply there to do what the men said, to be present to what they wanted, to give birth, to raise kids, to clean the house. And this kind of started around the Victorian age. And this was about 64 years of restraint, morality, control. Women were told to be pure, domestic, silent. Feminine energy was silenced and repressed. And I think we can absolutely see that if you look at how they were dressed, all the way up to their neck. And if you showed an ankle, you were disgusting. You were awful. So shoes would go sometimes up to the knees. Our bodies were completely covered. And why? Why were our bodies completely covered? Because there was this expectation that men were unable to control themselves if women showed any part of themselves. So what happened? The Victorian age. Women were now considered to be very moral, very pure, and in the home. We were not to talk, we were to be silent, we were not to have anything to do with politics or government because we didn't understand it. Does that sound about right for that time period? 1837 to 1901. Just a little over 100 years ago that ended. Now, our next one that we come to is industrial age, and that kind of overlaps with the Victorian quite a bit. So we're going back to like the 1760s and all the way up to the 1940s, finishing up around probably the time of World War II. And this was nearly 180 years of factories, machines, mass production. It was all about doing, producing, hustling, masculine energy on overdrive. And the only time that women came out of the home were during those war times because the men were gone at war. So the women took over in the factories. But once the men came home, the women were told to go straight back into the homes. And I want to bring up that this was the time of our grandparents. If you're a Gen Xer like me, grandparents, this wasn't that long ago. My mom was born in 1947. She was right at the end of the industrial age when all of this was still happening. And even as we fast forward now into the information age, beginning in the 1970s, still with us now, as you know, this is still issues with women and power and what we bring to the table. So, with that said, the information age, beginning in the 1970s, when it began, women were not even allowed to own a credit card without their father or their husband signing off on it. How crazy is that? And I don't think a lot of our younger women realize how long ago or how short that was. Only 50 years ago did women get the right to get a credit card. And here's the thing that doesn't make sense, right? Knowledge became currency in the information age. So you wouldn't think that that would be so much the case anymore. Women were finally maybe starting to become doctors and lawyers. They were part of things in schools more. They were having more going on, but it was still a masculine world. It was still man powered. The computers, the internet, that 24/7 connection, this was great, right? We were so excited. We learned to work smarter instead of harder. But let's be real. We were still on overdrive. In fact, we're on overdrive now. Always on, always available. And what is that? Just another form of burnout. We just keep hustling. And now here we are. As I mentioned, we are moving from hustle to embodied, standing at the age of something new. We're moving into what I like to call the embodied age, but what many call the age of consciousness. This is a time that we're moving into where people are craving authenticity, connection, balance. Our value is no longer coming by how much money we make or these different things that are happening, right? We we are now creating value not on what we produce, but on who we are, how we treat others. This is where the feminine rises to meet the masculine, where embodiment, intuition, and authenticity finally have a place at the table. This is now where we are remembering what it is meant to be, not just do. And this is where, for me, embodied sexuality comes in because our sexuality is our life force. It's a bridge. It's how we reconnect to our bodies, our intuition, and our truth. So, as we get started on today's, don't want to say lesson, but that's what's coming up for me. But as we get started on this journey together in this podcast, we're going to go through my own relationship with the energies, with feminine energy specifically, the times I personally got stuck in masculine overdrive, the wounds I carried from toxic feminine energy, and the feeling that I found when I was able to finally experience the healthy balance of both within me and both within my personal relationship. So, with that said, we just talked about the fact that for centuries a woman's place was said to be in the home. But let's be real, the energy inside that home wasn't feminine softness and flow, was it? It wasn't feminine at all. Running a household requires constant masculine energy. When we are protecting our children, we are in masculine energy. Driving from one event to the next, the scheduling, the structure, managing the bills, the meals, we're always going, going, going. And yes, structure is necessary. I love structure. I am so type B. Structure is my bestie. But if we as women are locked into a home and locked into that masculine energy to keep it all going, where does the feminine go to breathe? When do we actually even get to breathe? Where does that softness, the creativity, the presence, and the play of the feminine live? That belief has shaped so much of how I've lived. And it's one of the clearest examples of how wounded masculine energy seeps into our lives and runs the show. So, as a mom, a wife, many of you can probably understand we're tired all the time. We're up at 5 or 6. We don't go to bed till after 10. And around 2 or 3, I think a nap makes sense, right? Makes sense for me. And just a side note for those of you who know human design, I'm a projector. We need our rest. We have to rest. We are not manifesting generators who are always on the go, get more done, do this, do that. They just don't need that rest the same. And they often have a tendency to burn out because they go, go, go. Well, as a projector, when we are constantly active, when we are constantly doing things, we burn out at such a high level that it can take us a long time to get back to normal. And while I lived with 2 manifesting generators, my mother and my grandmother, they understood my need to rest, and there was no judgment with that. I was able to rest. Who didn't get it was my then husband, who believed rest is for when you die. So I would often in the afternoons, I'd get the kids from school, and my kids were 5 years apart total. So I had, let's just say, a 6, 4, and a 1 kind. And I would get the younger one or the older ones from school with, with the younger one with me. And I would be so tired by this time, so exhausted. I was just going, getting everything taken care of, moving things around. And I knew that I had maybe an hour or two to rest before it was now dinner time, get the kids to their lessons, get the kids to their practices, move and trying to work out all the details, right? So I love Blue. I don't know if you guys remember Bear in the Big Blue House. Loved it. I used to put that on for my kids, and they would sit in the living room, and my bedroom was right off that door. So like I could see the children, my bed saw the TV, so I could hear what was happening if I needed to. And I wasn't a particularly heavy sleeper at this time. And then I had two other doors that closed off the hall and the kitchen. So the kids were pretty much in there, and I, of course, had a first child daughter who took her job very, very seriously in the realm of I must watch my younger siblings and make sure they know exactly what to do and make sure that mom can rest and that they are behaving. Um, she did it so well that for years her younger siblings were not fond of her. And I'm sure some of you out there have kids just like this. And my kids were definitely, total side note, I know, but my kids are definitely the firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn. Like they hold that oldest, middle, and youngest just traits that are generic. That's my babies. And so back on that. So I'm resting and I'm so exhausted and I'm so tired. And their dad comes home and he sees me resting and he gets angry. He's like, "Why are you resting? Why are you taking a nap?" And I was like, "I'm tired. I'm just exhausted. I can barely keep my eyes open. And the kids are safe. Everything's fine. Don't worry." And he's like, "Oh my God, you're so fucking lazy. You don't even do much around the house. You just lay around. And now here you are now doing it." And this is what I lived with a lot. And I got to that place, right? The tightening in the chest, the guilt that I had slowed down, blaming myself if I got tired of how can I be like that? And his voice became that inner critic for me. Rest equaled laziness. Success is only constant doing. And in his mind, also, value only came from what you produced monetarily. So if I stayed home, took care of the kids, all that, I had no value. So that's another masculine trait in there. And I want to speak now to the wounded, that toxic masculine. And this isn't about blame or anything like that at this point, because I'm going to talk about the wounded and healthy for both energies. But I just want to put that out there that we hustle and hustle and hustle, and we get to the point to where we feel guilt and shame if we rest. And that is not okay. Moms, you need to rest. We don't sleep normal. We don't get that full 8 hours when the kids are young, what that we need. And so that means we have to rest throughout the day. Those kids can be tough. We love our babies. I love mine to death, but I'll tell you, there were moments, and I know that we've all had them. And I don't even think I need to put in details on that. So I want to speak now about how this masculine energy has gotten distorted, disconnected. It's driven this disconnect between the heart. There's no balance. And these wounded traits show up as overwork, hustle, no rest, the very thing I'm just speaking of, right? But there's so much more to it. Domination and control. You do as I say. Aggression, violence, abuse of power, suppressing emotions. Men don't cry. Men have been told to be stoic. Don't show your emotions, but they have emotions just the same as we do. And if they show them, they are treated in a poor way. And so that wound becomes deeper until people learn how to show the emotions, express the emotions, and for us as a whole to support men in this showing of their own emotions because they are the same as women. We all have them. Men also get a hyper competitiveness, that needing to win at all costs. I think we see that on a regular basis, like in football, where it's our team or yelling at the TV when it's a bad play. They're not even playing, but it's their team. It's we won. It's like, no, men, you didn't do anything. You sat on your ass and watched a game and ate food. They won. But yet, this need that's created within what feels like a community or collective within the sport, and that hyper competitiveness that will come out a lot of times in that, not just physically on their own, but even with watching things, a disconnection from self, others, the earth, because they're so go, go, go. They don't take the time to ground themselves, to really allow themselves to connect with their spouse, with their friends, with their family, with other people. And they use logic over and over again to dismiss intuition. So, which ones of these have popped up in your life, whether you've done it as a woman or as a man? You've done this or you've seen it in your man. So I want to move to the healthy masculine. This is when the masculine energy is aligned and grounded. And just take this in and feel what this is. It's about structure and stability, creating a safe container. It's about clarity and direction, that map of focus. Let's get there. Let's do this. Trusting them to know where to go. It's about protection and presence. It's not about control, but safety. Simple things such as a man walking on the outside on a sidewalk. It's just a protection thing. And ladies, it's a beautiful gift that they have this. They will have leadership rooted in service, not in ego. They'll have action that's purposeful and aligned, and their purpose is their number one thing. Doesn't mean that they don't love their family or their kids or show up for them all the time. It's just that that action for their purpose is very important. Supporting the feminine so she can flow freely, and the strength that is steady, not forceful. So I want you to take this in and know that the masculine isn't the enemy. The masculine in its healthy expression is what gives the feminine space to dance, create, and flow. So the problem isn't masculine energy. The problem is when we get stuck in the wounded version of it. And I prefer the word wounded over toxic because wounded means it's coming from a place in us. It's coming from the things we've experienced. It's coming from the ancestors, our history. And I think that's really important, is that it's wounded. It can be fixed. It can change. So let's go ahead and talk about the feminine now. And we are just as wounded in our energies, and we feel and we can create frustration and distrust. We can feel those things coming from other women. And here's something I've always wondered. Why do women cut each other down? Why do we gossip, compare, bully, sabotage? And yes, I know some of it comes from how we were raised, being treated poorly at home, trauma, learned behavior, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the raw, almost primal cruelness women sometimes show to other women. Where does this come from? Well, we could look back, see our roots. Biologically, women have always carried deep fears around security and safety. At our core, that's what we've been wired to seek. Safety means survival. So when we choose partners, so much of it ties into that primal need. Who can protect us? Who can provide us? Who can offer stability? This is coming from this cave woman part of us. It's instinctual. we don't even realize we're doing it, right? It's this imbalance. It can be so subtle, but so fierce, and it's competitive. And let's go back, like I said, to cavewoman times where survival really was survival of the fittest. If you didn't secure a mate, your bloodline ended. And who was the most desirable mate? The one who could protect, the one who could provide, the one who could keep you and your children alive. And then as we move forward in time, we are in historically in communities where women outnumber the men. It's a 60-40 split. And this imbalance is really important to notice too, because it is now creating a place where we feel this need to compete with one another. And I want to state that this is primal wiring in our bodies. It's still there. We carry it like an old story in our bones. And so women started competing, not just for love, but for survival. But here's the thing, and I think most of us believe this now. We don't live in that world anymore. We are not cave women fighting over scraps of food or the last available man, yet somehow we still carry this shadow, maybe deep back here, but it still shows up in our instincts where we see other women as threats instead of sisters. And this is what breaks my heart. Because instead of turning each other to support, healing, empowerment, we often turn against each other. Gossip, comparison, cutting each other down. So we feel like we're one step ahead. The truth is, this is conditioning. This is survival mode, and it's outdated. It's not who we are anymore, women, and it doesn't serve us. The feminine in her healthy power doesn't compete. She collaborates. She doesn't tear down. She lifts up. And yet we don't learn this as early as we should because the women around us are still in competition mode and still hurting each other. So I want to take you back to when I was 11 in Girl Scouts. And I woke up from we're camping. We are up in the Sequoias, I think. Beautiful area if you've ever been there. We have probably about 8 tents around us, about 4 of us in a tent. And I wake up and it's light out and there are no girls in the tent. I'm like, oh my God, am I the last to get up? Now, please know this is normal. I'm always the last to get up. So, I was surprised, but it's normal. So I come out of the tent and I'm looking around and I'm not really seeing anyone. It seems like everybody's up and maybe they're gone. I don't know where everybody is. And then I look over towards a group of trees and there's a pole. And all the girls are over there and they're laughing. And I'm trying to figure out, like, why are they laughing? I don't get this at all. But then I looked up and there at the top of the pole was my underwear. While I was sleeping, the girls had come into my tent, grabbed a pair of my underwear. This is at the age of 11, put it on top of a pole, and thought it was funny. I was, of course, devastated. I couldn't believe that my Girl Scout troop, the very thing that's supposed to be teaching morals and sisterhood, would do something like this, and that our leader didn't stop it. But to protect myself, I decided to make a joke out of it. And this is when sarcasm and putting myself down in a joke form became my reality for a very long time. And I started with putting my hand over my heart and I said, I pledge allegiance to my underwear. And I just made a huge thing about it, at which point the other girls laughed too, and we all did it. It didn't change the fact that I was hurt inside and couldn't believe that those who are supposed to be my sisters, who are supposed to be my community, especially at this time in our life in this age that is so tough, could do something so cruel. And that is the shadow side of the feminine, that toxic things that we do, that manipulation, the cutting each other down. And this created distrust for me that followed into adulthood for many years. And these are also the same girls who continue to do not kind things throughout high school. And I'll leave it at that. So let's talk about that disconnect that happens with the feminine energy, that wound that we are holding on to, where we manipulate. We use our emotions as control. We're incredibly passive aggressive, indirect communication all the time. And men, I know you feel this with the women that have been in your life too. We compare, we gossip, we get jealous, we compete. We play the victim. We're so helpless, and we play the martyr. Seduction without authenticity, so being sexy but not embodied. Overgiving and self-abandonment, the people pleasing in the name of love. Hello, that's me. Drama, creating chaos instead of flow. And I'm sure you can tell just from my own experience that I went through a lot of this, and it continued. And that's the sad part, is that even as we got older, it didn't stop. And even now that I'm an adult, I could see how their own mothers were like this for some of them, and how they saw how to be, and that was how they were. And it continued into adulthood. But let's move out of that, right? Let's talk about when we are embodied, ladies. Let's talk about when we're whole. How do we show up? Our intuition. We trust our inner knowing. We are listening to our body's wisdom. We're present. We are here now. We're not rushing. We're not grasping. We're just in the moment. We're flowing. We're creative and we play. We love art, dance, expression, bringing beauty into the world. We're nurturing and compassionate, not self-abandonment, but authentic care for self and others. We're sensual and we love pleasure, fully inhabiting the senses, enjoying life unapologetically. We are flow, we are receptive, we are open, we allow, we soften. Nothing is forced. Collaboration. We lift each other up. We rise together. We know that as we help others, we help ourselves. And finally, embodiment. We're bringing ourselves back into our body. We're honoring our cycles, our connection to the earth. There's a reason it's called Mother Earth. So, as I've read that, I will tell you that even reading that, if I was to read this back when I was 15 or 16, I would still not trust any of this. I'd be like, well, that's just what they say. I've never seen it because I just didn't see it happening around me. All I saw were all of the women who were wounded. All I saw was everybody putting each other down, not taking care of each other, not lifting each other up. So I want to fast forward now to a women's retreat that I did. And I don't want you to get jealous. It was in Costa Rica, one of the best things I ever did. This was back in 2008. I was lucky to join facilitator Suzanne Raja and about 20 other women as we embodied our feminine energy. Now, I will tell you that as a woman living in masculine energy, I was pretty scared. I was not feeling this a lot, but I knew I needed to do it. I didn't trust women, and yet I hated not trusting women. I wanted to move out of this fear of women and move into a place where I felt the healthy energies, the support, the love. So I was still carrying a lot of scars. I was in masculine overdrive, that toxic feminine, not trusting. I had maybe one or two females that I trusted. And when we were in this location, in this retreat, we roomed with three of us together. And we all were kind of close, but we had time apart. But when we came together in this big room into our circle, there was something there. And we all had our different experiences. There was a support area with lots of pillows. There was lots of colors and beauty, and all the beauty and all that resonated with me. But the idea of a woman hugging me, a woman touching me in any way, I didn't like that. And I certainly wasn't about to get in water and just let it flow over me as some women did in the nude. I certainly wasn't going to do that because, oh my God, that's not acceptable, right? This was me. But as we went day by day, that circle, those women became family. Those candles ignited our flames in our bodies. There was an overall sensation in the room that changed with each exercise we did. We found a place to be, a place to just be in ourselves. And that initial distrust became a softening. It became me seeing the healthy feminine in action. That shift in my body, I became warmth. I became trusting. And I'll tell you, I cried a lot as I let go of my layers of protection from the feminine. I still remember this as one of the best things I ever did. And I made some great friends at this retreat, and I learned how to be around other women. And where I am now, I embody my feminine more than my masculine. I have my masculine when I'm working, when I'm doing the stuff that I do. But when I'm with my friends, when I'm with my man, it's a totally different me. This is the embodiment that I'm talking about. This is what happens when the healthy feminine rises, when the healthy masculine holds space. This is medicine. This is what we want to create. So let's speak to this a little bit deeper now. The feminine in her healthy expression doesn't cut other women down, ever. I want this to be clear. Never do you cut another woman down when you are in your healthy expression of your feminine. Never. You don't judge. You don't tell them what they should do or think they should do something. You simply are there. You see her light and you celebrate it with her. You collaborate with each other. It's not a competition. And I'm not talking about when we're out there playing some sports and having a good time. You know, that's some fun competition, right? I'm talking about the kind where we are not manipulating each other. We are instead nurturing without abandoning ourselves. When we are healthy, our feminine is magnetic. We're radiant. We're unstoppable. Have you felt that before? When you just lay into your feminine energy, you just shine different. I have a friend who, as sad as the thing is that she's going through a divorce, when I see her now, she is a different woman. She radiates. She is happy. She is free. Because in that relationship, she didn't feel that. Her feminine has come back again. I love it. I thought that she was so caught up in her masculine energy. I hadn't seen it for years. And now I see it. And I honestly think that when I see these moments, it reminds me of moments of me feeling safe, supported, alive, because that is where she is. She feels safe. She feels supported by her friends, her sisters, her girls, and she is alive again. So when I'm surrounded by that kind of energy, I love it. And just like my women's retreat, where I finally got to feel what healthy feminine energy looks like in action, it's what we are being called back to. I want you to remember that we don't have to live in this survival of the fittest world anymore. We live in a world where we rise faster, higher, stronger when we rise together. So we've walked through centuries of history that taught us to repress the feminine energy, to overvalue the masculine, and to stay stuck in competition, hustle, survival mode. But we're shifting. We are moving into what many call the age of consciousness. It's coming in 2027 is what is expected as we move into this. This is the age where we're letting go of the old belief that our worth is tied only to how much we produce, how much we hustle, or how much we sacrifice. It's where we stop glorifying burnout and start honoring our balance. It's where we remember that the feminine and the masculine were never meant to compete. We were meant to dance together. The masculine in its healthy form gives structure and safety and direction. And oh my God, that's so sexy to me. I love it. And in the feminine, we bring flow, intuition, and creativity. And when we come together, we thrive. They are both equally important. This is what embodied sexuality is really about. This is the medicine we need. It's not about intimacy in the bedroom, although that's fun, right? We all enjoy that. But this is actually about the way we live, the love, the creation, and how we show up in the world. It's about bringing balance back into our bodies and into our lives so we can rise as a whole, radiant woman and women. And here's the truth. This isn't just personal, it's collective. As more of us embody this balance, we are reshaping the way society works. We are literally birthing a new world right now from the mother, from our feminine energy. So that's the invitation for you now. Stop overdoing, overproducing, and overcompeting. Step into this new age of consciousness where we can rise by being embodied, balanced, and unapologetically whole. And if I've spoken to anything that's come up for you, feelings around wounded versus healthy energies, or if my stories just resonated with you in some way, I invite you to look into those things more. Soften into the healing that you're ready to have. And I want you to just really just take a moment, breathe. In fact, let's just take a moment together. Hand on the heart, hand on your belly, and just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And on the next one, I want you to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your heart. And finally, breathe in all the way up at your scalp, top of your head, and breathe it all the way out through your feet, grounding yourself in earth, in your feminine. And if anything's come up for you, ask yourself maybe some questions. Where do I still distrust my feminine? Where do I still distrust my masculine? This is about just noticing. There is no judgment, ladies, because healing starts with acknowledgement. And from there, balance becomes possible. This is the shift we're in. This is the age of consciousness. And it begins with us. So, thank you so much for joining me. This episode meant so much to me. Um, it sits and resonates with me on so many levels. And if it resonated with you, please share it with a friend who's ready to rise with us. And if you're ready to go deeper in this work, feel free to check out my programs. I have Embodied Living, which is an 8-week workshop, 2 hours a week. I have resources available. And coming soon, I'm doing Embodied Sexuality. I'm so excited. I started with Embodied Living because I think that's where we need to start. But Embodied Sexuality is on its way, probably coming in at the beginning of the year. So till next time, keep breathing, keep embodying, and keep living your truth.